The scene shifts to the grand cafeteria of Midgar Academy, where Skel is absolutely crashing out, screaming like his soul left the chat because he just fumbled his entire net worth in a high-stakes poker match against the protagonist. He thought he could farm wins, but he got completely cooked, while Sid stands on business with a cold smirk, securing the bag and walking away with generational motion while the NPCs wail in 144p resolution. The Goon Squad realizes the cards are industrial-grade luxury items gifted by Nina to take care of Sid, and right on cue she spawns in with main character energy to check on her favorite Lil Bro. The down-bad duo immediately tries to glaze her with some sus comments, but she hits them with an instant L+ ratio for harassment, choosing to spoil Sid with a free lunch while the others get left in the dust with zero riz. The scene shifts to an upscale private dining area within the cafeteria, separated from the general hall, featuring luxury decor and fine dining, where Nina is staring at Sid with peak aura energy, visibly relieved that her favorite little bro hasn't lost his aura just because his sister vanished. She tries to keep the vibe wholesome, but while Sid is fully locked in on his boring mob performance, Nina drops some heavy lore about the industrial-grade destruction behind the dorms, causing Sid's ping to spike to 999 as he realizes his late-night activities are the reason the map is cooked. He tries to gaslight her into thinking it was just a cat and dog fight, while nearby, the NPC squad is down so bad they're LARPing that tap water is vintage wine until Nina pity feeds them leftovers, causing them to glaze her endlessly while Sid quietly enjoys his 100,000 zenny meal like the ultimate fraud. Suddenly, Sid senses a disturbance and looks down, to find Zeta camping under the tablecloth like a feral loot goblin, drooling over his fish while pretending to drop serious intel, so he feeds the beast just to stop the cringe. Sid switches to his Eminence in Shadow voice to discuss the ops, but Zeta is too busy inhaling the carpaccio to care, casually mentioning she abandoned Delta at the beach, and Sid decides that asking for more details would just ruin his vibe. The scene shifts to a supernatural pocket dimension that mimics the Midgar Academy hallways, but is desolate, grayscale, and filled with spirits and debris, where Claire is absolutely crashing out, screaming into the void like a streamer whose internet cut out, while Aurora tells her to hold frame because the loading screen is taking forever. The vibe instantly turns rancid as the server fills with glitched-out ghost NPCs, prompting a massive jump scare that has Claire checking her pulse. But Aurora casually drops the lore that these are just dead heroes stuck in the lobby. Aurora suggests putting them out of their misery, but Claire has no weapon, so she decides to reject modernity and embrace tradition by throwing hands, discovering that her raw strength build is actually valid against spirits. She starts farming these mobs with zero effort, while Aurora roasts her for being a musclehead, casually mentioning that the seal on her hand is leaking industrial-grade magic like a broken faucet. Suddenly, a hooded op pulls up and actually blocks her punch with physical mass, leaving Claire shook that she's fighting a real player instead of another bot. Claire starts yapping at him for griefing her run, but he rushes her, forcing Aurora to finally lock in and toggle on the aim assist to lend a hand. A massive blood tentacle spawns to block the attack, and Claire stares at it like her ping just hit 999, completely confused by the sudden power-up. The goon realizes he's facing a Smurf account, doxes himself as a high-ranking knight, and then drops his cringe gamer tag, Dark Smile Gene, thinking he has motion. Claire and Aurora immediately pause to roast his mid-nickname, perfectly syncing their L+ ratio energy. But Gene ignores the disrespect and declares he's going to kidnap her for the cult. Gene activates his Dark Smile ability, which is just him smiling, and Aurora starts trolling mid-fight, leaving Claire screaming because her support is useless, while the enemy rushes in. Just as Claire is about to get cooked, Zeta crashes through the ceiling like a main character, parrying the attack and asserting dominance with zero effort. Zeta presses the attack, and Jean's soul leaves the chat as he realizes the skill gap between him and a 7 shadow is actually a canyon. Claire tries to figure out if this is a friendly carry, but Zeta realizes the normie is in the way and tells her to get lost before she sees too much. Zeta literally yeets Claire out of the frame to clear the stage, while Jean tries to trash talk despite having 0 aura, and Zeta looks at him with pity because he signed his own death warrant. She unleashes her gravity magic, and Jean gets folded like laundry, screaming as the pressure turns him into a 2D texture on the floor. The dude literally explodes into black sludge, and Zeta hits a victory emote over his remains, renaming his skill Dark Matter because she owns him now. Victoria spawns in to glaze Zeta's performance, and the 2 cult members start analyzing the meta, convinced that Shadow predicted this entire scenario with his 500 IQ brain, leaving Victoria blushing over lore that doesn't exist. The scene shifts to a grand lecture hall with currently being used for an exam where Sid is absolutely cooked on a pop quiz, realizing his academic motion is non-existent, and he's about to face a weekend in the gulag of remedial study. To make matters worse, his usual cheat source is AFK, and when he looks at his goon squad, he realizes Skel and Poe are acting so sus with their glitchy movements that they look like low-res NPCs trying to hide crypt sheets. Sid locks on to Christina Hope, who is radiating high-tier honor student aura, but he can't screen peek her answers because the lobby is too crowded for him to stealth without breaking character. He starts calculating a speed hack strategy to bypass physics, but realizes the shockwave would delete her, so he tries to channel industrial-grade magic until a proctor shout makes his soul leave the chat. Turns out the admins were banning the fodder squad, dragging Skel and Poe out of the room screaming, while they fumble the bag in 144p resolution, leaving Sid to watch his friends take the ultimate L. Christina looks at the trash with cold disdain, while Sid stands on business, deciding he has to go full try-hard mode to protect his mob identity from getting exposed as a failure. He enters a flow state, charging his pen with enough magical riz to crack reality, preparing to unleash his ultimate phantom skill just to pass a quiz. Suddenly, the ceiling literally crashes out as Claire no-clips through the roof and faceplants onto a desk, leaving Sid rebooting in total confusion. She starts tweaking hard, screaming about voices and hidden powers, like she's mainlining pure brain rot, while the proctor tries to figure out why this random girl is griefing his exam. Claire realizes she's acting cringe, hits a quick teehee emote, and speed blitzes out of the room, giving Sid the perfect distraction to farm answers from everyone else and clutch the W. The scene shifts to a quiet corridor outside the lecture hall, featuring large divided-pane windows and paneled walls, where Claire is absolutely crashing out, clutching her head because her dignity just left the chat after that cringe entrance. She starts beefing with the empty air, blaming her ghostly passenger Aurora for the massive L, but Aurora just floats there with unbothered queen energy, casually gaslighting Claire about her Witch of Disaster title, like she didn't just leak her own gamertag. Claire tries to threaten the ghost for intel, but her soul violently leaves her body when Alexia spawns directly behind her like a stealth build player camping for a kill. The princess puts a heavy hand on Claire's shoulder, catching her in 4K yapping to herself, and immediately presses her for the deep lore on Aurora, signaling that the interrogation arc is about to get diabolical.
The video ends here, but the story isn't over yet. Like the video if you're ready for the next part.